fellow Bahamians, and the working people in the Bahamas, to a great extent, are under siege. They are imprisoned, marginalized in this economic web. Multinational corporations are systematically taking away benefits from you, the worker. Benefits you would have earned over the years, and replacing them with little or no benefits and putting you in a position of uncertainty. An example of this would be the termination of permanent employee and rehiring the same employee as an independent contractor or a contract worker, denying that worker vacation pay, holiday pay, sick pay, redundancy pay, overtime pay, and the inability to file a trade dispute because only an employee, not an independent contractor, is capable of filing a trade dispute. So those employees are left in no man's land that cannot represent what the late Sir Randall Fox mission was, nor the late Sir Clifford Allen and others. The right of the working man have always been placed on the front burner of Sir Randall Fox and Sir Clifford Allen. This is evident when Sir Randall said, and I quote, "Always keep alive that kind of faith while working honestly and patiently toward your goal, and you too shall become more than a conqueror." There is obviously a disconnect between some of the employers in the Bahamas and the workers and their representatives. An example of this can be seen from the unions listed below, in that they are unable to reach a settlement on the following terms: Bahamas Hotel Maintenance and Allied Workers Union, Sandals Royal Bahamian Resort. Officers of the union does not have access to the property to attend to their members. The failure to negotiate industrial agreement, the failure to reinstate all the terminated executives, and 3 young ladies who were terminated during pregnancy due to joining a union of their choice. Bahamas Industrial Manufacturing and Allied Workers Union, Morton Salt. The unilateral variation of work week, failure to pay double time when required to work on day off, failing to negotiate an industrial agreement within a reasonable time. The Electrical Managerial Union, Freeport Power Company, unfair dismissal of the president of the union without regard to the industrial agreement. The union is of the opinion that the company ought to be mandated to honor the terms and conditions of the registered industrial agreement and settle the pending matters on a timely basis. Bahamas Hotel Managerial Association, Kentucky Fried Chicken, failure to negotiate a new industrial agreement with the Bahamas Hotel Managerial Association. Memories Resort in Grand Bahama, recognition status not maintained. Bahamas Nurses Union, Public Hospital Authority and the Ministry of Health, unilateral decision to implement a change night duty shift, unacceptable differential payment to nurses, 33 plus nurses not classified or confirmed within the Department of Public Service, nurses not given terms and condition of their employment. Example, flight services, lacked liability insurance for coverage, disrespect toward union by the administrator, Ms. Bain, Department of Public Service and Director of Human Resources, Ms. Marva, Ferguson. Bahamas Doctors Union, Minister of Health, failure to pay Dr. Raming, Bahamas Customs, Immigration, Allied Workers Union, medical coverage for bargaining unit, outstanding overtime, December 2013 to April 2014, payment of utilities for officers on their transfer, electricity, water, cable, gasoline, disturbance allowance, promotion in customs and immigration, the Commonwealth Union of Hotel Services and Allied Workers, our Lucaya, Grand Bahama, failure to honor industrial agreement, failure to pay agency shop deductions, refuse to deduct agency shop fees from casual and contract workers, failure to pay $4,800 of agency shop fees collected to the union. Bahamas Guild of Artists, the failure to reinstate that union. Bahamas Educators Managerial Union, Ministry of Education, the failure to negotiate an industrial agreement within a reasonable time. Bahama Land Construction Workers Union and Bahamas Marine Dock Construction, Maintenance, Refinery and Allied Workers Union, enforcement of site inspectors, regulations for industry wage rate, BTVI certification, Skills Bank, specifically for industry trade union, The Trade Union Congress will assist in the restoration of the House of Labor and declare it a historic site. Obviously, we are asking the government to consider that. The TUC legislative agenda. The Trade Union Congress, TUC, response to the Employment and Industrial Relations Act, Amendment 2012. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas Trade Union Congress, TUC, recommends that the title be changed to, and I quote, the Employment Act for minimum standards in the workplace. TUC agrees that the meaning of day should be a period of 24 hours consecutively. The TUC is of the opinion that the definition of overtime should read as follows. Overtime means the time that an employee works in excess of the standard hours of work. In the case of overtime work performed on any public holiday or day off, twice his regular rate of wages. And in any other case, 1 1/2 times his regular rate of wages. The provision under Section 10 in the existing legislation is noted, but wishes to point out its constitutionality definition of work week. TUC accepts the definition of work week in the existing legislation. However, we wish to add a definition of work week to mean 5 working days. TUC agrees with the agreement to Section 5, Paragraph A of Subsection 1 of the Act by inserting the word legal immediately next after the word the. 4. TUC agrees to the amendment of Section 8 of the Principal Act. 5. TUC agrees with Amendment 9, 1A and B, except that the word shall, which should be substituted for the word must in Section 9, Subsection 1, immediately after the employer. TUC also agrees with Section 9.2 and 9.3A and B. 6. TUC suggests that existing legislation provisions under Section 10 be retained. 7. TUC suggests not amending Section 10 to include or insert the new Section 10A. In other words, we agree that the existing provision under the section should remain intact. To do otherwise would be regressive. TUC proposed amendments to the Employment Act, Section 2(1) of the Employment Act should be expanded to include all forms of remuneration, inclusive of tips, gratuity, commission, and service charges. See the Privy Council case of John Hanna versus Kalina Imperial. Language to be drafted by the social partners. TUC recommends that in the event a company is bankrupt or in liquidation, the employee should be treated as secured creditor and his benefits prioritized similar to government taxation. Language to be drafted by social partners. TUC is of the view that each employer should establish a redundancy fund. Language to be drafted by social partners. Section 26 of the Act should be amended to reflect similar language to that of Section 29 so that it may account for longer serving workers. Likewise, Section 29 should be redrafted to include severance and separation pay. The Industrial Relations Amendment Act 2012. TUC disagreed to the amendment of Section 2 of the Act, save and except for the amended definition of the registrar. However, TUC agrees to the existing legislation provision under Section 78, save that provision ought to be inserted for filing or of unfair dismissal. Language to be drafted from the input of the social partners. TUC agrees to amend under Section 48. TUC agrees to amend the provisions under Section 50 of the Act. TUC proposed amendments to the Industrial Relations Act. A balloting to determine agency should be based on 50+1%. Recommended the removal of the employer right of revocation of recognition under Section 43, subsection 1 of the Act. Recommend incorporation of ILO under the same language as used by the Convention. We take this opportunity to state as a matter of policy that labor as a factor of production ought to be at the table where public policies are being formulated, which invariably would affect the workers and can possibly marginalize them in the workplace in the absence of their participation. The work environment in the Bahamas is continuing to change. Therefore, the attitude of workers must also change with computerization and with the new technologies today. Capital and labor are no longer a fixture. They are movable and sometimes not so identifiable. This therefore requires us as a country to ensure that investors who wish to invest in the Bahamas be required to purchase some immovable assets as part of their business portfolio. This becomes very necessary if and when there is a relocation, bankruptcy, or liquidation. Presently, judgment debts and wages owed to workers are not considered a preferred debt for the purpose of liquidation and bankruptcy. Therefore, we invite the government to amend the Company Act and the Employment Act so that wages due unsatisfied judgment in favor of a worker, vacation entitlements be added to the list of preferred debts under bankruptcy or liquidation of the company. We recommend to the government that when a company decides to close its doors, that before they transfer their monies out of this jurisdiction, that all wages, vacation, pension, notice pay be paid to the worker prior to releasing the company to transfer their monies outside of the jurisdiction. We further recommend to the government that they establish a national redundancy fund where all companies of a particular size, and in particular offshore companies, be required to pay into this fund an agreed amount. So if in the event the company ceases to exist due to its insolvency or relocation, the worker would not be left holding the bag with nothing. We recommend that a national pension plan be established so that when workers reach retirement age, there would be a fund from which a pension could be paid. We recommend the establishment of a national health scheme. This we feel is necessary because a single illness could potentially wipe out all of the savings of a worker, including his or her pension. These initiatives are critically important as we move forward as a country. We must remember that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, and so investment in the health of our people is equally an investment in our nation. We must remember that there is a direct link between health and work. As you know, work is one of the most fundamental aspects in a person's life, providing the individual with a means of financial support, and as importantly, a contributory role in society. A person's employment is an essential component of his or her sense of identity, self-worth, and emotional well-being. We recommend that the minimum wage ought to be between $300 to $375 per week. This we feel is more equitable, having regard to the cost of living and the retail price index. We must remember at all times that education is a great engine for development. Therefore, we ought to invest in education and the labor movement. We say that crime is a byproduct of an inactive mind. Therefore, as trade union and workers, our role must be expanded beyond collective bargaining. I submit that it should be expanded to include the development of the whole man. Therefore, we invite all workers to unite in their interests and in the interests of all working people of the Bahamas. The theme, "Together we stand, united we can," is very appropriate. I wish to thank you, the workers, on behalf of the TUC, its affiliates, and the workers of the Bahamas, and the Friends of Workers, for attending the Workers' Rally on May 6, 2014. At that rally, certain issues were discussed, certain comments were made. Let me assure you that those comments are as real today as when they were made on the 6th of May 2014 at St. Gregory's Anglican Church Auditorium. We will inform you and the public of the date of the event. I look forward to seeing you and your family marching with us at the second Sir Randall Fox Historic Labor Day March on Friday, June 6, 2014 at 7:30 a.m. beginning at Windsor Park, up East Street, onto Bay Street, west along Bay Street to Navy Line Road, south along Navy Line Road to West Bay Street, ending at Arawa Key. Please join us at the TUC Fair at Arawa Key immediately following the march. Have a wonderful Sir Randall Fox Labor Day, and may God bless the workers of the Bahamas, and may God bless the Bahamas.